Scott Fischer here, and you know what? Today I'm going to take you through my latest painting for Magic the Gathering, known as Liliana the Last Hope. Now, I was super stoked to do a Liliana painting. Liliana is a known character in Magic the Gathering, a planeswalker, kind of a big deal. So I was really excited to do this. I want to do a bang-up job. I went pretty big with this piece. It's going to be 24 by 36 using acrylic paints. Let's get into it. Let's see what happens. All right, let's go. First up, thumbnails. These are the three that I submitted. I wanted to do something with a little more action. I was partial to C, so were they. I actually got to do a sketch that I really wanted to. This is a traditional sketch based on the sloppy digital you saw before. And once I do this traditional sketch in graphite, I scan it back into the computer, up the contrast of it, print it out, and mount it onto board. And then I start attacking it. Now, this character is concept designed way before me. I know they have a purple dress, so I just jump right in there with the purples and start scumbling things in. I'm basically trying to ghost up my black and white drawing a little bit, adding some middle values. You know, I'm a lot about those middle values, get that established middle value, and then react from there. So that's what we're doing. I'm going into this with acrylic paints, FW fluid acrylics usually, and the golden stuff as well. Using black now, I'm cutting out that negative space, which is always one of my favorite parts, because the moment you do that and you have some middle values, you see this, which you actually start to see, oh my God, it could be a finished painting someday. We're getting there. Oh my gosh. So I love popping in that black negative space. Time for some detail work. Using a liner brush here, I'm going in and drawing the bark of the tree that she's standing on, using those darks to cut out the zombie head down on the bottom right. You see that? Pushing those darks behind. Now I know I'm going to keep the values of the zombie lighter throughout this piece and use that tree to cut the figure out. There were going to be 3 more zombies over here on the left, but I edited them out for a couple of reasons. For one thing, I'm going to wind up extending the tree limb that goes behind the zombies' heads there, that I'm right there where my hand is, out to the side there, and I just didn't feel I needed those extra zombies. I wanted all that attention on the spiraling of zombies that was happening around Liliana. Painting gradients in acrylic, man, what a pain. You got to work really fast. I have a gradient pre-mixed, and I just start dipping into it. Go, move, 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 while it's all still wet, and try to get that contrast in there and that transition in there. I'm going to have to revisit it a couple times. Here's another pass. Once again, I got to paint it all the way out and raise those values, but we got that nice eerie green happening. Now for some relaxing bit painting the zombies. I'm staying in high key values here. Again, it's a value thing. I want the value of these zombies to cut out the form of Liliana. So they're going to stay light. I don't want them to go super dark. I don't want them to be super saturated. They are a framing element for the main character, and zombies are so fun to paint. I got to look at a lot of anatomical studies to kind of figure out how to do them. Now I'm going in and I'm painting in her trim. Now it's interesting, that's not white. It's actually the Titan Green Pale from Golden, and I wanted to save white for the very last movements that I wanted to do. Going in with some glazing now, cooling off some of that red, super saturated purple, and transitioning the dress to cooler colors as we move up. This character has some known trim pieces, so I thought I'd go ahead and do the trim pieces because I start to feel like, oh my God, it's one area that's sort of kind of finished. So I did the graphic elements real quick. While I was on a graphic kick, I did the red inserts on the dress and just started rendering up what's going to be going on with the wrinkles on the inside. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to handle the dress at this point. There's going to be a lot of wing in it, but let's see what happens. Some shading here, a little bit of glazing to push back the forms in a couple of places, just getting a little darker in areas. Now up next, we're going to do something pretty cool after we add a few more values, and we're going to try to cut out the figure. I felt like the hips of the figure and the torso were getting lost a little bit. Look at that. We got a stencil going, and I'm using this crazy brush, which is a makeup brush. And it's actually like an airbrush. I'm scumbling in the paint and using it really fast to kind of add a ghost-like screening to screen back all that stuff that's happening behind. Once I do that, I can start reestablishing the darks in the dress. There's this trim that the dress has in the reference that I was supplied, so I went for that first. I figured that would give me the most contrast, and I can start reacting from there. Now I'm doing some cross-hatching wrinkles within that, just kind of guessing. It's almost like a checkerboard. Dark wrinkle, light, dark, light, dark, light. Once I do that, I start to get a little bit of a firmer grasp of how I'm going to handle this. Let's go ahead and extend that dark trim down the dress. Indicate a couple more wrinkles with some more cross-hatching. Work my way down, little spiral staircase lines, cross-hatching that are kind of pulling things back in space. And now we're going in with some much more opaques, right? Adding that blue glowing light, and I hit it, while I was at it, I hit it with the special effect that's going to be racing through this entire piece. I'm going to use that blue glowing light everywhere in this piece to give extra edge light and rim lights to things and get things to really bounce. Get to render a little bit more on the zombies. It's almost like, okay, I'm kind of feeling good about the dress. Let me go somewhere else for a while and rejudge some things. So I'm rejudging the leg that's inside the dress there. So we got to fix that up a little bit. A little bit of middle value on the hand up above. And let's draw on the details of the boot, which were also concepted out completely. I'm using a purple light on one side of the arm and a green light on the other side of the arm. I'm drawing the seam line of the tailoring of that sleeve. Anytime you do a seam line, I feel like it gives it a little bit of extra form. You understand how it's wrapping around the figure. It's like a drawing guide to do the seam of an outfit. One of my favorite parts was this zombie head. You know, he's all drawn out of my head, and I just wanted to enjoy the exaggeration that happened in my initial drawing. So I'm going with my lighter values. I'm going to really light him up with this purple effect. I want it to be one of the brighter spots in the entire piece. When I made the eyes glowing, I was like, let me drag that special effect right out of the eyeballs and keep it moving. And then we started moving back and forth in these purples that have occurred elsewhere in the piece. You can see how green the fur trim is behind that as well. It's not nearly as light as it was at the top of the piece because I want you to look at the glowing effect. Let's use some of that green now also to go ahead and paint in the fabric that's sort of entwined around these guys. You can see my palette there is actually an old makeup eyeshadow palette. And that's what kind of cool palettes there. They separate off real well and you can get, you know, a little mixing spot at the top. Love that. We're using that blue, again, putting some edge light on some stuff. Anywhere that I can use that blue that's coming off the magical effect, I'm going to do it. Adding a little bit more crispy details in here. And I'm feeling pretty good about that skirting so far. Remember, nothing wants to distract from Liliana, so I'm not going to go too crazy with my contrast and details outside of the main figure. It's got to be enough so that it doesn't look, you know, that I wasn't hanging out there enough. But I don't want it to pull away from our main figure. She's going to have the most contrast, the most everything, the most saturation. All of that jam is going to be up to the figure. Reestablishing my drawing now with some liner brushes for the zombies. I definitely looked at my own hands for this. Took a lot of pictures with, you know, iPhoto of zombie hands and that kind of stuff. And I had to make little value decisions. Like, notice the hand over the back is darker than the back, right? I kept the values of the back lighter than that hand so that that hand would stand off a little bit. And the moment I hit it with that edge light of blue, boom, it's just popping off of there again. There you go. We get that separation happening. But still, I want in the squint, I want you to see all the zombie silhouettes. You notice they're pretty individualized. And I'm just going to control the values and get looser and looser with my zombies as I move down the piece. Now remember, on a magic card, that's going to all be hidden behind a text box, which is true, but I also want it to just be a lot looser. These days, I kind of am enjoying, as I get away from my focus, getting looser and looser and more energy into that painting. Alrighty, just finishing up this hand down here, adding the values that it needs to pop off the forms behind it. Notice I extended that blue effect straight down into the zombies, and it's kind of engaging them, like hitting their eyeballs, running through their ears, all that kind of stuff as we're ripping around the piece. More aggressive brush strokes like I talked about in those zombies, really kind of chunking them up, man, making them super dark and crunchy down there. And as they go up, they are a gradient of values, right? You get the darkest zombies down at the bottom. Then as you get up towards the effect, they get lighter. And then as you get behind Liliana, boom, I'm using those really bright zombies to pop that form out. Extending out the branch, as I discussed earlier, established a middle value real quick, using some directional mark making with that thick brush to kind of indicate bark. And then we're going to go in and add some bark-like details in there within that. So again, I say it all the time, establish that middle value, go a step darker, maybe a step lighter, and then see what you have to do from there. But notice I'm not going to put white on those trees. They're not going to go super bright. I don't want to get buzzy down there. I don't want to get busy down there. Adding some trees in the distance here. Once again, having to paint that green gradient. Oh my God, it never ended. But finally, I'm going to go ahead and knock in the dark black values of the tree. And we're getting close here. I'm starting to see the end of the rainbow as I'm getting closer and closer towards the end of this thing. Let's paint the face. Been saving it. That middle value was already established for my first scrub in. So then I went in with my first highlights first. Then I went in with a darker color. Now I can start establishing things, adding a couple more middle values. Let's go darker with the hair behind the head because I'm going to use that to cut out that profile. What I'm trying to do is avoid putting black on this face. I want this face to stay in a higher key color, kind of like the zombies to the left. So I'm going to use the collar and the hair to frame that face along with the gold crown thing that she wears. Not exactly sure what's going on with that, but it looks like some kind of crown. Now that I've done that, I can go ahead and draw in my hand. And I already know I'm going to use purple light on one side. And then we're probably going to go with a little bit more of a pale purple blue on the other side of that hand. And I can work that effect straight behind the hair and just start extending out those magical ribbons. Forgot I had to do this mask. It was kind of a last minute thing. Oh, right, I got to do the mask. So I added it to the hip real quick. Hanging off of there. A couple highlights on there. Okay, I'm really feeling it now. Let's light her up. One of the coolest things about Liliana's concept design is that she has these lighting up tattoos. I just think it adds this awesome extra edge, this extra feel to it. Doing it with a liner brush and one of the lighter colors. But this is a very light pink. It's still not white. It's a light pink. There she is, all lit up. All right, folks, we've done it. The final piece. I was pretty stoked with this. Again, 24 by 36. Printed pretty cool. And you can see once again that most of the zombies are cut out by the box that's beneath, on top of them. But they're still there. You can kind of see them through there. It's a little transparent. And of course, it makes the original art something neat because you see something in it that you don't get to see every day. And with that, folks, I appreciate you hanging out with me and checking out this latest piece. I'm really excited to see the rest of the artwork from Double Masters 2 coming out here. I'm super stoked. It's some of the coolest cards, some great art coming our way, guys. So I hope this gets you psyched to see some more, including from me. All right, later.